Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Max Frequency Podcast. I am your host, Max Roberts, and I have the honor and privilege of being joined not by one, but two people for the first time in the show's history. I have my life in gaming. This is the totality of my life in gaming. There's Marc, Try4ce, Duddleson, and Coury Carlson. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hi.
Doing great.
This is
the first time you've had two people on
this show, yeah. So I've done other shows with like 3 or 4 people or what have you, but on this one, it's always been just me and someone else. But when I was thinking about the Switch 2 launch, I was like, I want to talk to Try. I want to talk to Coury. I should just talk to them both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you know, that time we talked about the Nintendo Direct at some point last year was so fun. So back to talk more Switch, but this time Switch 2 primarily.
Switch 2. That's right. So yeah, Try, you were on the show last time in July of it was the June Direct. Yeah. That was in the episode published. Wow. So yeah, it's been a year. And then Coury was on the show back in October of 23. That's when he said his your tour video was almost done, and then it came out a year later.
Yes. And now it's been almost a year since it came out, which is funny.
It is. I loved watching that video. It was so good. Worth the wait.
Thank you.
The wait. So it's been fun. You guys have been on the show before, and we're here to talk Switch 2 because Nintendo console generation, our launch has only come around apparently every, well, I guess it depends if it's a failure or not, but if it's a successful console every 7 to 8 years.
Yep.
And so it came out last week, and I just wanted to go through the whole thing with you guys. But first, you guys put out a surprise to me at least, surprise video, kind of celebrating the Switch 1's life right before Switch 2. I just want to say I loved it. And you got me to get a Donut Dodo or Dodo Donut, whichever one.
Heck yeah.
It was on sale during the Switch 2 launch. A bunch of stuff.
I secretly passed them a note saying you should put it on sale.
They got my $2.50. I'm excited to play it. It looked right up my alley. So everyone should watch it.
It's a great little digital pick up and play game that it's a great time killer.
Obviously it reminds me of Donkey Kong. It gives just that arcadey kind of feel, and I just want to. It seemed like good comfort food, comfort gaming. Turn it on and play it. How was the? I like the way that you guys ranked it. It was like unranked, and then the top 3. Try's top 3 were very obvious, or at least it's number 1.
I don't know. I like people who don't hear me talk about this stuff so much might assume I would pick like the Zeldas, but Kirby and the Forgotten Land it felt so much like a game that was made just for me and like fulfilled this like almost lifelong desire I've had for like a 3D Kirby game that I thought I was going to have on the N64, and it just like was this like wishful. Yeah, it was just like this wish fulfillment of that I've had just in me, since I was, a tween or a teen, right? When the N64 came out. So, it just hit me in those feelings. And I have to, because it's so for me, even if, technically like, something like Tears of the Kingdom is, much more impressive, but it was just such a special moment for me personally. Yeah. But I did take that idea, at least it's my recollection of what Digital Foundry has done the past 1 or 2 years, I think, when they've done their graphics of the year. They do like a bunch of honorable mentions that they thought were interesting, and then they do like the top 4 to 10 unranked. And I just thought, you know what, that sounds like a really like fun and kind of not too serious way to do this stuff, because like, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not really a big deal competition or anything. We're not really pitting these games together in any like serious capacity. So I just thought mostly, even though we did kind of slip up just because of the way we had written our lists in Google Docs, like it still did have like 4, 5, 6 and so on, and we like caught ourselves like we need to stop saying like number 10, number 9, because that's not what we actually mean.
Are you guys going to do more consoles? You talked about it a little bit.
I think we could like maybe just pick like a console that has like a milestone anniversary and like maybe do like one or two of these a year. I don't think there's any harm in that. I think it's a fun exercise that makes it not, it doesn't marry the game to the ranking as firmly as, a lot of the more like clickbaity kinds of lists out there might do. I think kind of in the wake of like Claire Obscure coming out, there was like an IGN best, or I think it was like top 25 RPGs of all time or something that I think was, yes. I didn't look at too closely, but I understand it was like kind of controversial. And obviously for IGN, like that's what they want, is they want people to look at and debate about it. But like for us, like we just want to have fun. Although admittedly, like some people don't get the just having fun aspect, and like, no matter what you say, they're just going to say, well, this is why people don't take you guys seriously anymore.
People get upset if your list does not match exactly their list.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird like entitlement thing, and I like, why can't people just like what they like and live and let live, right?
Oh yeah, you would
most
think,
people I think are reasonable enough.
I feel like maybe it's just getting like an age and wisdom and chilling out kind of thing. But as a kid, I probably would have cared way more, or like a teenager cared way more about an IGN, like, oh, these are the best, or feel more passionate about it, I suppose. But
right.
When I watch like your guys' list or read it someone else's that I care about or trust their opinion, like when Corey says Sayonara Wild Hearts, I'm like, oh, of course. This makes perfect sense. This is a logical thing. I'm not surprised at this at all. And it just fits and it's cohesive. And I like the way that you guys framed it, I think at the top, where you're like, these were games that, while they may not run the best on Switch or are exclusive to Switch, we think of them as Switch games. And I think even we talked about this a little bit, with Dragon Quest, the 3 2D HD remake, and I was waffling between which platform. It's interesting to think about the game as tied to the console, even though it may not be. And I think that's a really important and personal factor that makes a list like this far more resonant and personal. Like you could go look up a top 25 Switch games list, and roughly they're all going to look the same. The Zeldas will be in there, Odyssey will be up top. You'll see an Animal Crossing, but the only way to get a My Life in Gaming list is obviously to go to you guys, and you have a perspective that no one else is going to have.
Well, I think that it would be really boring if it was only games that were exclusive to the system. And then, then everybody's list would be the same, except for, we still probably put Metroid Dread in the disappointments, to be much the chagrin of everybody else.
By far the thing that people like in terms of a specific game that was commented on, that was by far what got the most comments of like, you guys just don't get Metroid Dread. And it's like, no, it is a really mechanically impressive game. Like, I think the actual like mechanics of it are fantastic. And it's not even really so much, I mean, I think there are criticisms to level at it, but it's more disappointment in myself for just not being able to feel the excitement I felt I should feel.
There was recently a comment that basically boiled down to like, you guys are too old and you've played too much to think of this as a disappointment.
Which maybe they're right. They're actually
maybe they are. They're right, but
I think they are right. Actually,
what are we supposed to do about that?
You can't do anything. You got to delete your memory.
Yeah.
I will say, when I started the video, normally I just watch it, like full screen, so I don't see the comments or anything. But obviously, to get there, you have to see the top comment, and it was something along the lines of putting Dread as their top disappointment is the craziest thing. And I was like, oh no, they didn't like Metroid Dread, but I had a whole video to mentally prepare myself for that.
Well, it wasn't that we didn't like it. It's just like, what has the world come to, or what have we become if like something of the scale of Metroid Dread and the quality of Metroid Dread is just like, that sure was another Metroid game.
Well, I forget which one of you said it, but you were like, there's so many good Metroidvanias out. Like we're playing so many great ones, Hollow Knight, and it's too much.
Yeah, it's just that everybody wants to make that kind of, genre as their homage to Super Metroid.
Yeah.
And now there's just so many of them out there, and a lot of them are really, really good. It's just that it's not
overdone.
Quite as exciting as it used to be to get something like that.
It was like Shadow Complex came out on the Xbox 360, and that was one of the first like really big digital only games for consoles. And that game made such a splash because people are like, oh my gosh, it's just like Super Metroid. And I think every other indie developer like has a tribute to Super Metroid in them somewhere that they can't resist the urge to get it out there, and they've just made too many of them at this point.
Yeah, I totally get it. When you oversaturated, it can be oversaturated, especially when they generally are all pretty good. So it's we'll see if Nintendo graces us with another 2D Metroid during the Switch 2.
I'm sure they're already working on it.
Do you think Mercury Steam's going to be doing it?
Probably.
I think so. I mean, I think they really proved themselves with Dread. I mean, despite our, disappointment, like I think they made a fantastic game. I truly do. And I think maybe going into it, like reflecting on how I felt about Dread will hopefully prepare me to like go into the next game a little more cautiously. And perhaps for me, like expectations are like half of how I feel about a game, and how those expectations are either met or subverted. I feel like if I go into like a pretty good game with super low expectations, sometimes I walk away like raving about that game more than I do like a really good game that I went into with like slightly higher expectations. And like technically, if I were just to give like a relatively objective number to one of these games, it would probably be like, okay, this game is better, but this is the one I'm going to rave about because it seems like more of the underdog, or the game that I didn't expect to be as good as it is. I don't know whether that's right or not. That's just how I walk away feeling. Like subverted expectations relative to how good I thought a game was going in can matter a ton for how passionate I am about it.
Mm-hmm. So the Switch 2 came out as we're recording last week, which was a very obviously exciting time. So I thought to start it all up, we would talk about the launch itself, our experience with it. The pre-orders were not troublesome, but difficult at the start, especially
They
with
were
the
troublesome.
Delay.
They were troublesome.
Troublesome. Yeah. With the delay of when they were going to go up, to each major retailer kind of fumbling in one way or another. But I figured we'd just talk
about... But were they necessary?
Were they necessary? I don't know. Based off, I think, all of our Best Buys, I think we may not have needed to pre-order necessarily. But I was just curious how everyone's launch day pickup, delivery, what have you, went. Corey, how did it go for you?
So I tried to get the Mario Kart bundle during the pre-order phase on the night of when everything was going up. I decided to only go for Best Buy because we've kind of taken part in a boycott of Target. So I said, if I can't get it from Best Buy, I'm just not going to worry about it. So I waited in line at Best Buy, like on the website, for a super long time, and then eventually just timed out. Did not get the Mario Kart bundle, but I was able to get a standalone bundle, or not, or standalone,
just the console
unit. Yeah. And I thought, well, I just maybe I'll get Mario Kart digitally, that day. So when it came time to go pick it up, I was, ringing out everything. I had ordered a Pro controller, and I thought, well, maybe I'm just going to buy Zelda Breath of the Wild when I'm there. So I did that, and I was, checking out at Best Buy the morning of the 5th. So I didn't go to a midnight lunch or anything like that. I just had to go in the morning, and I asked them just on a whim, like, "Hey, do you have any Mario Kart bundles for walk-ins?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we have a whole bunch." So I just returned my my standalone and just got the Mario Kart bundle then. I'm not a huge Mario Kart fan, so I was like kind of okay not getting it. I played the first one when it came out, and then I never bought another one until Mario Kart 8.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Well, actually, no, I bought Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, and then Mario Kart 8. But I don't know. I'm not particularly good at it. It's just like a fun, thing to do, and also it's fun to play with my kids. And now my kids are like older, like I can kind of get them into it. So I don't know if I would be open to paying $80 for Mario Kart, but $50 I can do, in the bundle. And I decided to just not get a physical copy because I'd rather wait until, patches come out. And if they release an updated cartridge, I'd rather just wait for that. So that's going to be my motive for, buying the physical copy later on down the road, just to kind of hold on to. Right. But other than that, everything was pretty good. I got it home, got it set up, and it was pretty seamless thing. I just put it exactly where my Switch 1 was, and I moved my Switch 2 to a different place on my shelf, or I put my Switch 1 off to the side, like on a different place on the shelves, and put my Switch 2 like where the Switch 1 was.
Gotcha.
And it's just basically swapping it out is easy.
Did you say that you bought Breath of the Wild?
Yes, I did buy Breath of the Wild, mainly because I really, really loved it on the Switch, and I felt like, I got the Switch version at launch, and now at the very least, this one's going to have an updated like a patched version of the game, because you can take those Switch 2 cards and you can put this one in a Switch 1, and it will play on the Switch 1 also.
Oh, really?
So it has both versions on it. Yes.
Is it a red cartridge?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a weird thing though about dual Switch cartridges. I don't know if you want me to talk about it now or later.
Yeah,
when I get to
I'd
my
be curious.
games,
Yeah, no. What is it? What's up?
Well, so I don't fully understand the details. So I ended up like kind of very last minute deciding to order the new Rune Factory game, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, which mostly because it's complete on the cartridge. And Marvelous has been saying like, hey, we think for the people who play our games, we think, putting real games on the card is the right move. We don't want to do game key cards. And so like similar to the reason I got Cyberpunk at launch, I wanted to support like complete game on cartridge. However, because of some weird situation that I do not really understand the details. I've read about it, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, but it has specifically to do with these carts that will work if you put it in Switch 2 and will work if you put them in Switch 1. Something about those cards, if there is a patch, my understanding, I could be a little fuzzy on this, but if there is a patch, which there was with Rune Factory, there probably isn't with Zelda, but there is with Rune Factory, for some reason it has to just download the whole game. Now that data is on the cartridge. Like you can play it without downloading the patch initially, and it's the Switch 2 version. As far as I know, it's totally fine, but there's some kind of minor day one patch. I don't know exactly what it does, but because of that, and because it's one of these dual carts, it eats up 12 gigs on my Switch 2 for some reason. So it is a true physical, but I'm not getting the benefit of keeping that data from eating up internal storage.
It's almost like an old school cartridge where you can patch it. It's a weird situation. I don't fully understand the details. It's just an inconvenience, but it's a little odd. Okay. But on the other hand, I also got Cyberpunk, which only has I don't know, maybe a 2.5 gig patch. But of course, that's not a dual cart. It's Switch 2 only. Right. I'm thinking about Breath of the Wild physically for Switch 2 because I have it digitally. I don't have it physically. So I was thinking about it, and that actually is kind of encouraging to hear that you can. I didn't know you could put it in a Switch 1 and play the Switch 1 version of it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I do wish that they did have I guess the DLC is probably on there. You just have to pay to unlock it, I guess.
Well, it did have to download something. I'm assuming it downloaded the DLC.
Okay.
I didn't. I can't. It's over there. I could look to see how big the download was, but I don't think it was very much.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It's just nice to have that updated version, even
Right.
the Switch 1 version, just for the future, right?
It doesn't have the DLC though, which I've never bought.
Right.
I don't know if I even have that much interest in it, so I don't think that's too much of a deterrent for me from buying that cartridge eventually. It's just that it's expensive, but as a physical collector, I do want to have it eventually. But I gotta spread these purchases out,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I get it. The motorcycle didn't entice you, Try? You didn't want to ride around Hyrule on a motorcycle?
Oh, honestly, I didn't even know about that. Maybe I don't want it now.
No, it's pretty cool. But the thing is, I bought the DLC at one point, but it was a decent time after I had last played it. And there's a lot of controls in that game, and even going back to it now, it's like, how the heck do I even play this? I'm like so bad at it.
I'm the same.
There's like a huge like reacclimation process of getting back into those games, I think.
Yeah. So if you have the DLC, does that work with the Switch 2? I assume that works with the Switch 2 version, even though it's not included with it.
Yeah, you got to load that virtual card onto the system now.
The DLC virtual memory card.
Yes.
Something that has been interesting to me though about those kinds of updates is there's no like, okay, we have to like convert your data to the Switch 2 version. Like it just, your saves are just there.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool to see because I did boot up Breath of the Wild and all my stuff was there. I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
That's
although
nice.
I don't know if like suddenly if you were to then try to use that data on your Switch 1, I haven't tried anything like that yet myself.
That'll be something good to know because I'm 40 hours into Tears of the Kingdom. I'm playing it in very like concentrated chunks, but then months between. So, but obviously now, like the next time I boot up Tears of the Kingdom, I want to play the Switch 2 version.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if that will let me retroactively go back to Switch 1. Should I ever want a lower frame rate? I don't know.
No. Well, and also on Switch 2, you can map that dash button to the grip buttons.
Oh, true.
On the Pro Controller, so it's that's very enticing, I should say. Don't have to claw to do camera plus dashing.
Mm-hmm. That's actually that's a very good point.
I did pay for the upgrade for Tears of the Kingdom, just to $10 is okay. Which I kind of regret now because I ended up getting the expansion.
So you
pass.
did get expansion pass? Okay.
Well, I didn't find out until afterward, after the system was even out, that you could have up to 8 people on a family plan for it. And I was like, oh, well, I got 4 people, 3 of which is, myself and my 2 kids. And one other person, it's like I could get 4 other people, talk 4 other friends into it, and then we all just paid $10 a year.
Sure,
yeah.
So I ended up doing that and getting them on my plan, and it was a no-brainer at that point.
Yeah, I pay for myself, my wife, and then my sister-in-law. She has a Switch 1, and she loves all the old N64 games. And so she just sits and plays Pokemon Stadium and Mario Kart and stuff. So I just throw her on the family plan. And then a couple of friends wanted to be on it so they could play their games online. I was like, yeah, you can be on there. I pay for it anyway. So it's
what's cool though
handy.
with that GameCube stuff, and that's something that wasn't super enticing to me, but F-Zero GX is, I guess, always enticing to have on a system at any point. And I had totally forgot that game had widescreen support, and so does Soul Calibur 2. But, you enable that in-game, and it just, like, fills up the whole Switch 2 screen, and it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Great way to play it.
Good times. What about you, Try? How was your launch experience? What'd you do?
Yeah, I guess we went off on, like, 5 tangents there before we got back to the pickup experience. So I did manage to get a Mario Kart bundle. Pre-ordered at Best Buy the night pre-orders went up. It wasn't until about like 1:15 in the morning when my queue page actually went through, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I had before then at some point I had managed to get a Pro Controller pre-order in at Walmart, and I kind of wish I had done it at Best Buy just so I could get everything in one place, but I was just so scared of like for somehow screwing something up, or maybe like, oh, I pre-ordered the Pro Controller too late, I couldn't get day one, so I let it be. I let Walmart deliver the Pro Controller. But yeah, I ended up picking up the Switch 2 Mario Kart bundle and Cyberpunk at Best Buy at midnight. I had two friends come with me, even though their Switch 2 was coming via Walmart, which, by the way, Walmart packed in Pringles and a bottle of Coke, I believe, to most people who pre-ordered Switch 2 from there, which was kind of interesting.
They did for my brother-in-law. They did not for me.
Oh, okay. Well, I held on to maybe some hope I would get that with my Pro Controller, but alas. It actually sounds like it was a really good experience for the Walmart people, because they lived up to their promise to have it delivered by 9 a.m. Because I think they did like all local fulfillment, like from their stores. So it sounds like a very successful operation for them. But on the Best Buy side, I was pretty impressed with the pickup, because, I had my friends along, and the line was, my Best Buy is not particularly big. The Best Buy that Corey picked his up at, in Northern Kentucky, I actually went there a few months ago because I was up there visiting Corey at the same time that John Linneman from Digital Foundry was in town for his annual family visit. And we were doing some game shopping in the area. He's like, "Oh, I want to go check out the Best Buy that I, camped outside for PS2 at." And it's a very nice, very large Best Buy. And I don't know if Corey actually heard how many systems they have, but I imagine it was probably more than mine. Mine had, I don't know if this was pre-orders and walk-ins or just walk-ins, but they told me they had 100. And the line was, again, mid-sized Best Buy, small to mid-sized Best Buy, the line was huge. I was really surprised by how long the line was. I've never seen anything like it, actually, at my Best Buy. Even when I picked up the Switch 1 on day one, which was not a midnight launch. So yeah, the nice thing was they were giving everyone in line a piece of paper. I think everyone was able to get one, even though the line was, a block long. And about 10 minutes till, they said, "Okay, everyone with pre-orders, let's form a second line right at the door." So I was the second person in the pre-order line, and they let 2 pre-order people and 2 walk-in people go in at a time. And so I was the third person out of the store, and it was a really smooth process. I thought it was kind of funny that, they had this kind of setup right by the checkout of like extra games, extra accessories, the amiibo. I don't really understand why there was like a bunch of amiibo coming out the same day as Switch 2. I know that
they were Street Fighter amiibo.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, but there was also like Tears of the Kingdom amiibo, and I know that there was like one guy in our Discord who was like extremely concerned about getting Yunobu, who is like the Goron sage in Tears of the Kingdom, because for some reason absolutely everywhere had pre-orders for all of the other amiibo, but just the Goron sage, just for some reason, no. But it looked like he and other people who were desperate to get all the amiibo did indeed get Yunobo. Okay. But yeah, I just thought it was really funny that, there's this thing people have been worried about. It's right there. So yeah, got out, dropped my friends off at home. Like, they didn't even want to come back home with me because they wanted to go to bed so that they'd be ready for, their Switch 2 delivery from Walmart in the morning, right? So, they just want to be part of the midnight experience, right? So I dropped them off, and I went home, and I had preemptively, well, actually, I bought 2 accessories that I had in my possession beforehand. One was a 2-pack screen protector that I'd gotten off of Amazon, just third-party tempered glass screen protector with a guide. And about 9 p.m. before I went to Best Buy to pick up my system, I went to Lowe's and bought an extension cord because I realized there is literally nowhere to plug this thing in where I want to put it. I'm not ready to unplug my Switch 1. all the surge protectors and stuff it's all occupied. And the only thing I didn't have another extension cord that I could like extension cord or power strip that I could like dedicate to like a permanent installation. So I went to Lowe's, bought an extension cord, and ran like it from another power surge protector on the other side of the room. And or actually no, it was actually an extra slot in my my UPS surge protector. So yeah, I ran that over. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny that of all things, like very last minute, I realized I have nowhere to plug this thing in. But anyway, so when I got home, like I always want to almost as soon as the air hits this thing, as soon as I pull it, I want to get that screen protector on, right? So I would, I had my studio lights on my B-roll table, and spent forever. They come with these little sticky little stickers that you use to just dab the dirt off of it,
like
which works
surgery.
very.
Like I'm.
Yeah. It's just you just keep sticking it off, and I'm very slow and meticulous about it. Want to be so sure I do it right, but I think doing it this at 11:45 a.m. was a mistake, because somehow even with like the guide, like this guided frame to stick over it, somehow, and I like checked it again afterward, it's like exactly the right size. So I do not know how I screwed it up, but it was like off center. And so it was kind of up on the edge of the screen. I'm like, oh, crap. So I get the other one out. I dab the dust again, super meticulous about it. And then there's this like gigantic piece of dust under it. So I'm like, I should not have done this, this time of morning. So whatever. I take the system downstairs. I prepare to set it up. And it says that the day one patch is going to take like 3 hours or something. And I'm like, oh no. And so I'm like talking about it on our Discord, and people are like, oh, that took 30 seconds for me. And I'm like, well, I waited too long. I waited, I spent too much time on those screen protectors. Now everyone is home and trying to update at the same time. I don't know if that was actually the case though, because I seem to have been the only person that really had a problem. After maybe 10 minutes, it failed to update. It's like, try again some other time. Well, I tried again right away, and yeah, it took 30 seconds. So I don't know what was the deal with that. But yeah, so I got Mario Kart, which was, just a code in the box. I got it downloading. I was just looking for something to do while that was downloading. I put in Bakeru, which is the kind of Goemon spiritual successor from Goodfeel, which is formed by a lot of former Konami developers who worked on the old Goemon games. It ran with an unlocked frame rate on Switch, so it could in theory hit 60 frames per second. Was almost always in the 40s. It looked really, really juddery and unpleasant to play. So I never played past the first level, hoping it would be better on Switch 2. Well, lo and behold, it's 60 frames per second on Switch 2. So that was my first taste of improved performance on Switch 2. Then I did one Mario Kart time trial and went to bed. Of course, in my excitement, I fell asleep fast enough, but I woke up earlier than I wanted. And immediately my brain is like, oh, there's a Switch 2 I could be messing with, and I couldn't fall back asleep. So, Walmart had delivered my Pro Controller by that time. And later that afternoon, Amazon delivered Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, which despite Amazon, kind of having a feud with Nintendo right now, they don't carry the systems. They don't carry the first person games, but they do carry first party games, but they do carry third party games. So they had that was delivered for me day one. I was not going to get that until I read a review, and then I'm like, oh, I do have points on my Amazon credit card that I could use to get the price pretty low, even though I feel like I shouldn't be spending more money now. But I was like, I want stuff for day one. I get very excited about system launches. I want this. So, that pretty much sums up the stuff I got. Did not get the camera or anything. So I did get Welcome Tour a couple days later, because I decided to stream it. But the way I talked myself into it was there might be some actual tools in this that are useful for video demonstration purposes. And I'm like, that was how I talked myself into it. So, yeah.
Well, I didn't even think about the fact that I bought Fast Fusion. I guess when I got back, and I did buy a 256 SD card as well.
I'm trying to hold out for like a good price on like a 1 terabyte. I don't even know off the top of my head if the 1 terabytes exist yet, but I
think that they do exist, but they're from sketchier companies.
Right.
Like ONN.
Oh, isn't that's like Walmart's brand, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was just like, I'd rather just get a reputable brand version and also get it in store so that I know it's legit.
Right, because I've gotten sketchy Samsung stuff from Amazon before.
And I guess the real downfall is I can't put all of my Switch 1 digital stuff on there, but I decided that I don't want to do that anyways. I'm only putting stuff on there that I know 100% runs better on the Switch 2.
So, I mean, I have significantly fewer digital games than Corey does. And I was able, I have everything installed that I own on it right now. And I've still got, I got a little less than half free space. Okay. That'll probably go down as I maybe pop in more Switch 1 games and download more patches and stuff. But I've put in a lot. I've put out a ton of Switch 1 games and patched them. So, including all the ones that have the free updates and stuff. And including because I did get the expansion pass a few days before launch. I've got the GameCube app installed. I've got, expansion pass includes access to updated Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. So, I do have quite a bit of space consuming stuff installed, including that, for whatever reason, 12 gig patch for Rune Factory. So, I think I judged it well. I don't see that, considering I mostly buy physical games, I don't see that size going up to that the amount of free space going down too quickly. Yeah. So I'm going to try to hold out for like a really meaningful, and ultimately maybe I don't need a 1 gig one. Maybe I just need to wait for a good deal on 512 unless I find myself getting more digital games with Switch 2 than I currently anticipate.
Yeah. I just figure for now it's good. And then, I'm sure that I will upgrade in the future anyways, and if an OLED system comes out down the road, I'll just take that and I'll get a new SD card for that one. Hopefully it'll be a bigger one.
Yeah. I think I've been able to coast off the internal storage of the Switch 2, not the Switch 1 or even the OLED. Those have SD cards in them for sure.
Yeah, it's funny that I laughed when they did the kind of tech breakdown in the Nintendo Direct that was like the full reveal. And they're like, showing like the blocks like piling up, like Switch 1 has this much storage and look at all this much more storage Switch 2 has. It's like, it is like by, just in terms of like the multiples of gigabytes more, it is more, but it's not a lot. It's really not a lot. It's not a lot. 256 is not a lot.
Not these days.
Considering that most other consoles are coming in with like 1 terabyte minimum, like internal storage.
Yeah.
I think the closest would be like the Series S. I think that starts at 512, which is still double the Switch 2, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I guess,
but it's really dumb with that one because there's just no way to. There's no other options besides like using that internal storage
or the proprietary back thing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the Steam Deck, the like lowest end model is 256, but the OLED starts at 512. Like the cheapest OLED is 512. So
most digital games that I buy for the Switch are kind of retro-y, so
they're small.
Like they're not space hungry.
Right. Well, I was able to get one from Walmart after Target said my address was undeliverable too, which not true. They've delivered to my house. So Target failed me.
And Target's always late anyways.
Yes, I had friends with Target orders be late. So yeah, I'm glad that didn't work out. Walmart kicked me out of line the first go around. So I was upset about that. And then Best Buy, everyone knows, was late, took forever, wasn't working. But then I saw like a tweet that said, well, if you were in line at Walmart, if you go like reload the page and click this, like you can immediately add it to your cart. And I tried that and it worked. I was like, oh, dodging bullets.
Oh. And they didn't cancel your order.
No, they didn't cancel my order. I didn't ask support. I saw reports that if you even chatted with support, they would cancel your order. I was like, I don't know. Don't
wow.
tempt fate. I don't know. It was scary out there. I did not believe that they would deliver by 9 a.m. like they promised. Thoroughly impressed that they delivered by 7 a.m. I woke up that morning. The Pro Controller was already on my porch, and the Switch 2 came later. I got a base unit, no bundle. When I tried, because I wanted to get Mario Kart physically, because unlike Corey, big Mario Kart fan. So I was like, Nintendo, you win this round. You get the extra $30 from me. I'm the sucker here. But when I tried to order Mario Kart separately from Walmart, because all I did was get the console in first. I didn't want to waste time trying to fluff up the cart with everything else. I just wanted to like confirm that order. But Walmart said that they wouldn't deliver Mario Kart until like the middle of this week. And I was like, no, we can't do that.
No.
That would defeat the purpose. So I ordered Mario Kart from Best Buy for in-store pickup. And so I went with my friends to the midnight. They had a pre-order in stores. So I hung out in line with everyone and just went in. I told people I was there to get Mario Kart so I could just see if the cartridge tastes different. That was all. But their pre-orders, so our Best Buy in our area is the biggest kind of that I've been around in a while. I remember going to GTA 5's midnight launch there, and it was absolutely nuts. So this one had 2 lines from the start, pre-orders and non. The non-pre-orders wrapped around the building and down the end of the other strip, so like to the restaurants. I think the line was between 200 and 300 people.
Wow.
At least from what I had heard for non-pre-orders. And then pre-orders stretched down the other end of the strip. I think by the time midnight rolled around, there was at least 100 people for pre-orders.
Wow. Nothing like that at my store. Like I think the allocation was much more toward walk-ins.
Yeah. It was, I asked the guy when I was getting Mario Kart, they did not give me a commemorative coin, by the way. They were like, it's only for people with systems. I was like, darn it. But he said that they had about 200 units for walk-ins, which, and I overheard employees say that a different store up in Kissimmee had even more. And Kissimmee, I think from here is maybe within an hour. I don't actually know how far, but I was like, dang, that's a lot more than I thought, and that a store would have. But everyone seemed prepared this time. Retailers, Nintendo themselves, it seems like a pretty healthy supply. Which I'm happy to see. So
I would say that the pre-order situation was extremely frustrating, but we couldn't have known that it would have actually been relatively easy to get a system. Like we just couldn't have known based on past experience. It's always been a bad experience, right?
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. So all I got was the Switch Mario Kart and the Pro Controller because I had to feel those sticks. I had to feel how glidey those sticks were.
They're insane.
About. They're
unbelievable. I've never used anything like them.
Yeah, it's sick. I did not get a camera, but I watched The Verge's video about game chat, and 2 of the guys on the video said they were using this Logitech webcam. I was like, oh, I have that in a drawer somewhere. So I dug out my Logitech, plugged it into a dongle, and it works. So I'm game chat ready.
Yeah, my Logitech C920. It's been around forever, and they still sell it.
That's what I have.
On loan to. Yeah, well, it's on loan to a friend right now who I did play game chat with. With them using that Logitech camera, I could have swore it might be in my parents' house. Like I have like a worse Logitech that I looked all over my house trying to find. I couldn't find. I actually tried to use like I've got this like USB like HDMI dongle that is like, I think some computers like read it as a webcam and not like a capture card. And I tried to see like, can I like capture another console through this or like a external camera through this? And I was not able to get it to work. But I will say, from playing with game chat with cameras with friends, if they turn on their camera, have you seen what it does in Mario Kart? Like, it's actually really funny.
It puts their face like on the screen, right? Like over.
Yeah,
the
it puts their face on the screen, and if they get hit like by a shell or whatever, then like their face spins around, and it's actually it's kind of hilarious. And we were commenting in battle mode, like the people who have the cameras on and the people who don't have the cameras on. The people with the cameras are probably at a disadvantage because people really want to like go after the ones with the camera so they can see them spit out.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Do those cameras, does it have to be plugged into the top USB-C on the system, or can it be plugged into the dock?
So I only tested the top. I assume it has to be the USB-C because I think that's like where the video protocol's going through. But I
honestly,
did not test
I never
USB-A.
really thought of that.
I would be annoyed having to have that plugged in the top, sticking out of the top all the time.
Yeah,
Me too.
I actually don't.
I already looked at angled brackets. I have an angle bracket I use in my Steam Deck dock.
Well, hold on though. That Logitech though that my friends are borrowing, that's definitely just USB-A. So I can't imagine they adapted that.
I plugged it into a dongle and then into the top.
Yeah.
But maybe you could ask your friend and see if they plug straight into the dock.
I feel doubtful, but you know what? They had trouble at sometimes.
Maybe.
There were times where they're like, "Oh, why is it going out for a little bit?" So maybe it favors that top USB-C port. I don't actually know.
But if it does work with the dock ports, then I would be much more likely to use it.
Yeah,
me too.
Well, one accessory I forgot to mention is I did get a GameCube controller.
Oh yeah, mine's right behind me.
I see it. That's what made me think like, oh yeah. So I was really annoyed the day they went up for pre-orders on Nintendo's website because there were rumors like, oh, it's going to be 11 a.m. It's going to be 12 p.m. Well, I waited at home, to past 11, past 12, it didn't go up, and I'm like, well, I've got my Nintendo store up on my phone. I'm logged in. I want to go out and grab a bite of lunch. And if they go up at 1 while I'm away from home, like I'll be fine. Well, guess what? They did go up at 1. And, I'd been refreshing this page several times before then. I was logged in. Well, as soon as the 1 o'clock refresh goes around, they log me out for some reason. They log me out and I can't add it to my cart. And it was probably 3 minutes after by the time I figured out like what the problem was. They had logged me out. Well, I tried to log in and it would act like it was successful, but then I wasn't actually logged in. So by the time I finally got logged in, I have a queue up. I'm in a queue on my phone. I'm like, this mobile queue is not going to work. Like, what's going to happen if my screen goes off?
Yeah.
It's like, do not refresh the page. Do not leave or refresh this page. Like, I don't know what it's doing if the screen goes off. So I leave the restaurant. I message my local friends. I'm like, hey, like, can you get in the queue for the GameCube orders? Because I don't think this is going to work for me. And so I put my phone in like my, my clamp I use for like maps navigation. And I'm like, every like 10 seconds, I'm like tapping my phone to like make sure like the screen doesn't go off as I'm driving home. But the problem was like, I kept accidentally like kind of pulling down a little bit. And like, I think I may have like actually refreshed the page on accident a couple times while driving home. So I'm just like tapping it, just make sure it doesn't go away. I'm like, if that controller page goes up, I'm going to like pull over and like place my order or something. So anyway, I get home, it still doesn't work. Actually, I don't think now that I remember, I didn't ask my friends until I got home because I get home, I bring it up on my computer browser. I'm in the queue. I'm like, crap. So I asked my friend like, hey, cause I knew they didn't really want a GameCube controller. So it was fine. For me to take their allotment. So, my friend got in the queue and like probably at least 3 minutes after I did and got through. I'm like, please place this order. And
give you the
he
money.
did. I immediately paid him back on PayPal. And my queue wasn't going through. So, but since, we'd settled it all, I'd paid him back and everything. Like I just left the queue. Well, it turns out that people were still able to order that like into the early evening, I believe.
Yeah.
So that panic wasn't necessary, but same thing with the systems. It's like how this stuff has always been a panic, low supply. Who knows when these controllers might get restocked? Like we don't know. We didn't need to panic.
Right. It was similar with the N64 controller. Like the supply was pretty low up front for the N64. I've been thinking about getting another one actually with the analog 3D on the way. I was thinking about getting some more because that
I have two of those.
I have two as well.
But I wish that they would allow for more than one of the GameCube controllers. But they'll probably raise the limit, I guess, in the future.
Yeah, I assume so.
They're just doing one. I mean, I didn't even hit the queue. It just went right through. I didn't even.
That's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, that was a weird experience for me. But hey, I do have the controller. It's interesting. They let you remap, like in the GameCube app, they let you remap controls for, Joy-Cons, Pro Controller, and GameCube controller. I tried to do it. I was like, some of these some of these GameCube games would probably play fine with an N64 controller. They don't let you do that. You can't even access the quick menu, like the GameCube, like quick menu or whatever, while you're playing a game. You can't even access that with the N64 controller. Like you can hit, I think it's ZL. You have to hit ZL on the GameCube controller to bring up that menu. Well, ZL is Z on the N64 controller. It don't bring it up. And I try like, well, what if I were to use a Pro controller to remap and then use the N64 controller? I remap the Pro controller with the controls I want on N64 controller in mind. But no, you do that remapping in N64 controller, it can't be changed. Same with the GameCube controller and the N64 app, which would be a shame because, as much as I love the N64 controller, a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people would like playing N64 games with the GameCube controller, but no, you can't remap it.
It's just them being stubborn too. Like there's just no reason for it. And maybe they'll change that in the future. But
maybe because they added the full button remapping to the Switch 2 at like OS level. So,
but not for Switch Online controllers.
Yeah, I was just so annoyed because I really want to use the SNES controller with a lot of stuff. But I hate the fact that it doesn't have a home button. And I was hoping I'd be able to, map that to like the ZL, like the tiny little button on the top. That would be great. Yeah. I've also been thinking about, I wonder if they're going to do a different set of NES controllers because these won't be able to be used with the Switch 2. They won't be able to charge at least.
I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, I've got a Famicom controller right here that I did sync to it. It pops up. It has the Famicom controller logo and everything. But yeah, you can't charge it, period, without Switch 1. Like if you sold your you can get a controller charging dock for those. But yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah, they got to redo it for sure.
Just change the top on it. It's not that hard.
I mean, the Super Nintendo controller is like I have so many like retro styled games for the Switch 1 that I would say that I might use the Super Nintendo controller as much as I use the Pro controller on the Switch 1. Because I just love to use that controller for retro style games, even though it doesn't have the home button. I mean, what I just do if I need to use the home button, I just like stand up and hit the home button like on the Joy-Con on the system, and they'll bring it up. So,
I didn't even think about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's weird that it's not there, but yeah.
So the other thing that I love about my life in gaming, and has definitely contributed a lot of spending on my part, is just the elaborate setups, getting everything connected. That's the beauty of the studio tour videos and just connecting all these things to the scalers and all the fun stuff. And so the Switch 2 seemingly did not present a problem, but it's presented quite a few problems for me, because not only are we trying to plug everything into one TV or multiple TVs, but also trying to plug it into capture setups and recording. And the Switch 2 has been quite troublesome for me. I actually have not been able to reliably capture Switch 2
Right,
so
I saw
far.
this on your blog. You talking about it.
It is
with the Elgato, right? Like it's not working well with your Elgato.
Right. So I have 3 Elgato cards of different variety of things. So I've got their standalone card, which is I think of it as akin to your Ninja Atmos 5 or whatever you guys have, just without a screen. So I've got that at kind of the end of my chain. I have a HD60X. That's the one that basically caps recording at 1080, but it passes through 4K 60. So I do the twisted thing of that card goes into the standalone card. So I can get to my computer if I need to, but use the standalone card to offload the recording workload. After updating the Switch 2, it wasn't showing up in the chain on the standalone card, which is behind me here. And after some troubleshooting, it basically was clearly if I turn HDR off, I can capture 4K 60. And if I want HDR, I'm limited to 1080p because apparently on LG televisions, at least, I'm not able to get 1440p, it seems.
So what model do you have?
I have a C1.
Same as me. Okay, so
that should work.
So
hold
on. I've figured I've sort of figured this out through some discussions with someone in the MLig Discord. This was actually one of the things that pushed me over the edge to get Welcome Tour, because I've got Cyberpunk, which has the 40 FPS mode, which means that it needs to boot in a 120 hertz mode to use 40 FPS, which, as we all know, the Switch 2 unfortunately cannot just do 4K 120 output. It has to be 1080p 120 or 1440p 120. Well, Cyberpunk boots in 1080p 120 instead of 1440p 120. I'm like, okay, well, whatever, really, because I don't think, especially for Cyberpunk, I think you're not going to get really a quality advantage at 1440p because it's not a particularly high resolution game on the system anyway. But I saw someone with I believe a CX show like, oh, hey, it's interesting to see it goes to 1440p 120 when you do the frame rate mini game in Welcome Tour. I'm like, oh, does maybe the game, like, is Cyberpunk telling the system or the TV, like, okay, we're doing 1080p 120. This game doesn't support 1440p 120, just 1080p 120. And maybe Welcome Tour would boot up in 1440p 120. Mm-hmm. Well, Welcome Tour also boots up in 1080p 120 for me when it does the frame rate mini game. So what I figured out was if I connect directly to the TV, it does do 1440p 120. And apparently, according to this person I was talking to, the EDID on LG OLEDs say that they are compatible with 1440p 120, but they don't have an EDID that says they can do 1440p 60, even though they absolutely can, because I've done that with Mister. I've done that with all kinds of HDMI mods for other consoles.
Right.
And so, it does, but it's just not in the EDID. So that's why PS5 and Switch 2 think that they can't do 1440p and why it's grayed out in the menu. Whereas on Xbox Series X, like, it just, they don't stop you from trying and it works, But PS5 and Switch 2, they're like, oh wait, no. We know best. Let us help you here.
It's like, no, with my PS5. I could set it to that. That definitely shows up.
You can set it to 1440. You can set 1440p on your PS5, really?
I'm like 95% sure. I could test it.
Because it shows up, but it's like it does like a test, and then it's like, oh nope, can't do it. Not that on PS, if you're successfully getting 4K 120 out of the PS5, there's not really a compelling reason to do 1440 unless it opens up access for a capture card, perhaps.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it has been weird for video output and capture stuff. Well, basically the conclusion of my story is it's almost certainly the AV receiver. AV receivers aren't really focused on 1440p because they're thinking they're in like, you know, a living room setup or something. Like 1440p is so tied to computers and stuff like that. So I think even though it goes through, like, I think it's just not in the EDID for some reason. So, but I think in general, after figuring out some of the quirks, I have had more success with Switch 2 than Corey. The biggest problem I've had, and I think I solved this last night, this HDMI 2.1 switcher that I use. I for a while I've been having a problem on it where every time I use the Xbox Series X, the next time I do anything through that switcher, like the audio just doesn't work. And I have to unplug the switcher and plug it back. Otherwise, it's a great switcher. But then the audio will work. Well, PS5 never did that. Other things I put through it don't do that. Well, the Switch 2 does that. So every day after the Switch 2 comes out, like first thing in the morning is like, well, I got to unplug the HDMI switcher and plug it back in. Well, I finally figured out because it's got EDID switches on, and I was just having to do the default EDID. And I figured out that if I do like, you know, just tell it to do like the flat out EDID, you know, I don't have like 7.1 sound, but I have 5.1 sound, but I just like, you know, I just told you flip the EDID switch. It says, you know, 4K 120, 8K, 7.1, all these HDR formats. You can do it all. Don't worry about it. You can do it all. Now it seems that it is not causing the audio to stop working that way, thankfully. And come to think of it, I actually should retest and see if maybe now I can magically do 4K 120 or excuse me, 4K 1440p 120. Maybe I played Cyberpunk last night, but I wasn't paying attention to what resolution it was sending. So I don't know. Maybe.
So maybe I should try that again, because originally I plugged it in. I have the HDMI 2.1 end of my chain, which is really just my PS5 Pro and Xbox. I have this splitter, this HDMI 2.1 splitter from Monoprice. I forget what they call it, like the Black Hawk. I don't know what it is. But it has 2 ins and 2 outs, but you can set it up to just split it. So I have one end go to the TV and the other end go to all the capture stuff. And so I thought I'll put the Switch 2 in that, and that will have the HDMI bandwidth for everything, and I won't have to worry about anything. But I thought that seemingly was not working with the rest of the capture setup, and I have the EDID set to the same default, basically like allow everything through. But maybe if I tweak it, because I also don't have surround sound out here, maybe if I tweak it, maybe I can go back to that. So then also the HDR, I was getting wonky colors, like the blood moon, like it looked like the blood moon rises just over the whole gameplay footage, like just this dark, super deep, you can't even see anything. So I switched over to the Elgato 4K X, which I bought last year on sale because I wanted to be able to play at 4K 120 on my TV without having to like switch cables around. Basically was the whole point. And then I could capture if I needed. Well, my computer's not powerful enough for it, so that's just been sitting and collecting data. It's not powerful enough to capture 4K 60, so I've just been letting it sit there. I'm like, well, I guess I could plug this in to just the Switch and see if that solves it, and that has not solved any of the problems either. So I want to play with HDR on my TV, but I want to be able to so I'm in this, I don't know. Clearly, Try's had some trouble with it. Corey, have you had any trouble like capturing with the Switch 2 like me, or?
So the Ninja, which I like to use, like just it won't see it if you're using HDR.
Yeah,
just nothing shows up. And I feel like the capture that we're seeing on our AverMedia cards, like after we figured out, you know, there's a whole other, I guess, like a quote unquote hidden setting for the HDR brightness.
Yes.
That kind of fixes capture of HDR, but I still think it's kind of messy. I think that it's just improperly implemented at some sort of base level, and they have to fix it.
I think most HDR calibration uses 3 screens. So at first I was surprised, like, oh, why is it just 1 screen? And then it turns out it's 2 screens. But I rechecked calibration on like my Series X as I was like trying to figure some of this stuff out. And it's like, that's 3 different screens that they have you do there. So something is a little PS5, weird, but that said,
but I think it's like something in the protocol, like in the settings.
I think it's something in the signal. Cause when we pull up, like, I think we all have LGs, right? Do we all have LG televisions? If you mash that green button, it tells you like what's coming in.
Yeah.
The HDR for the Switch is different than everything else I've tested.
Yeah. Well, I just think that something like the Ninja is a professional video device, and it's like adheres to these standards very closely.
Yeah.
And the fact that, the Xbox and the PS5 like work totally fine with it, and then it just like, Ninja's just refusing to see anything at all, makes me think that there's something at a base level that is just wrong. And hopefully they fix it.
There is and I believe the Switch 1 is the same way. Apparently the dock is actually using like a display port to HDMI converter inside it. Although I've heard that I don't know about other
PS5 Slim uses it.
I don't know if other models, but at the very least the PS5 Slim apparently does the same thing. But we don't have a Slim. We have a Launch and a Pro. But so I'm actually pretty happy now with how my captures are looking. Like Mario Kart is just a really bright game. Like, and I think, you're going to have this problem with any, you're going to have this problem still with, with Xbox and with PS5, you're going to have a problem where certain bright highlights, if you're capturing HDR as SDR, like even if your capture card, we use AverMedia capture cards, even if they can do like reasonably good, like tone mapping to convert that HDR into SDR, you're still going to lose some detail in the bright highlights, like no matter what. Like you just can't do a perfect conversion of SDR to HDR or HDR to SDR. And I think just because Mario Kart is such a bright game, I with the way I've got calibrated now, I have that brightness on the second screen set 5 clicks from the bottom. That was what seemed to give me like kind of the best compromise between looking right on my TV and looking good enough on my captures. Like it looks in Mario Kart, like most things look good, except you lose a little detail in like the bright parts of the clouds. If you're on like a beach or something, like it might look a little blown out, but like most everything else looks good in Mario Kart, and everything is Cyberpunk. I think the HDR in Cyberpunk looks fantastic, both on my TV and then once it's converted into SDR in my captures. I think Cyberpunk's looking really good. Mario Kart might just be too bright. But I do think it looks nice in HDR. One thing, like there were kind of 2-tiered problems to what I was seeing on my TV with HDR at first, because first of all, we didn't realize that, that Y button prompt was a actual secondary step and not just, redoing what you just did at first. So that was too bright. And secondly, I had manually set the, RGB output range to limited because, I don't use the Ninja to record as much as Corey does, but, limited range can make capture easier in a lot of scenarios, and it doesn't actually like cause more like color banding and stuff like people think it does. It's just 2 standards for where does black start and where does white start. Limited range is not bad. It's not bad. It's just the important thing is having your equipment match range on, the output and on your display device. So the problem I found was if I manually set limited range on the Switch 2 while using HDR, my TV does not correctly detect the range and it's doing it as full range. So that made things even brighter and more washed out, like doubly so. So what I figured out was I just need to use, for now, I'm just using full range output from the Switch 2 and it's fine. Or I could just manually set limited range on my TV, but I don't necessarily want to do that. So that's something that I'm kind of working around right now. But for the most part, my Switch 2 capture situation is pretty stable. But it's been quirky, and it's kind of unfortunate that we've reached this point where, yes, it's cool that Switch is moving on to 4K and HDR and 120 hertz and all that stuff, but like now it's join the leagues of these other systems that are just so complicated with their settings, and you have to babysit the settings all the time, you know, on like a game by game basis for, you know, does this game support this feature? And if it does support 120 hertz, maybe I don't want to use the 120 hertz mode for this game. Now I'll have to turn it off, you know. So now with the Switch, we're having to babysit the settings even more than we used to have to, because things ain't so simple with video settings no more. Unfortunately, HDMI 2.1 is a double-edged sword.
I remember when hooking up analog consoles to HD TVs was more tricky than the HD consoles. And now it feels like it's the inverse. It's like you said. When does RGB Masterclass for the PS5 start? When does that start?
Well, you know, I've actually been thinking about doing a video that I think most people don't realize the extent to which you actually do need to manage settings if you actually want like the best out of the system on a game by game basis. Like you might not want the same settings for every game. And I've kind of been thinking about like doing like some sort of video this kind of like venting about this. That's just like, okay, if I want to use this feature, if I want to use that feature, I need to do this, and that. And like, it's not as straightforward as you might think it is.
I think might be time for some RGB Masterclass level 400. 400 for 4K.
Yeah.
Revisit
4,000.
1,000.
Revisit. Yeah, we're going to get into grad school here.
the master's program. The PhD in video signals.
Getting into all the stuff that we wish that we never had to.
Yeah.
You know, it's just all the stuff that just, you know, just gets in our way now. It's not even fun anymore.
I just want to play my Super Nintendo on my HD TV.
Yeah.
Crispy pixels. That's all I want. So I assume you guys just like were able to plop it into the setups, though. We didn't. Besides buying an extension cord, you guys didn't have to buy anything too extensive. Just plops right into the whole setup, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I had, you know, for half a year, you know, I bought that 2.1 switcher that I had mentioned. I've got way too many switchers and splitters, but I'm ready for everything to, you know, be able to pass a full 4K 120 signal through. And even though Switch 2 doesn't actually need that, I didn't know that at the time. Like I had reserved a spot for it on this switcher, so I'm still plugging it into, you know, a fully capable switcher. Maybe the Switch 2 OLED someday will actually let you do 4K 120 output with VRR, please.
Just some VRR,
but anyway,
please.
Yep. So I plugged into that just like I planned. In fact, I ran the cable the night, maybe a day or two before, actually. I put like an extra like Switch 1 dock in the place. Like, okay, this is how it's going to fit in. And I ran the cable. I have like, you can buy on Amazon from this company called Level Hike. I actually kind of don't like them because they put out a lot of those really bad HDMI adapters for classic consoles like Super Nintendo, and they even did some weird ones like PSP, Neo Geo, TurboGrafx. They actually sent me a bunch to my PO box one time, which I used them exactly one time, and that was to show how bad the M Classic RGB series is. So sending them to me was not the right move. But they actually sell the exact OEM cable that comes with Xbox Series X, which is awesome. It's, you know, that cable has been, I found early. I think there's more good HDMI 2.1 cables out there now, but when HDMI 2.1 was kind of in its infancy and I was like having a lot of trouble with it, because that's how new HDMI standards tend to be. Like the cables just aren't actually up to spec, and the switchers aren't actually up to spec and stuff like that. I had the best success with the cable that came with the Series X, and when I found these on Amazon, I'm like, this is the exact same cable,
and they're not even that expensive.
I've bought,
and they're not even that expensive.
No, they're not. So they're just really reliable, just good flexible cables. So I've relied on those a lot. So I had a spare one, and I just went ahead and preemptively ran that for the Switch 2. put it into that spare Switch dock. And I'm like, I was figuring out like the day before, like, ooh, if I kind of turn them at this angle, I can have like the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 together. And like, I was like, yeah, I know the dock is going to be bigger. Well, when I actually got it here, I'm like, I can't actually have the Switch 2 at this angle. I thought looked nice. So it's kind of weird, although I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. But for now, I haven't really done any like management on my cables because I'm still not 100% sure, like, is this how I want to leave it? But the Switch OLED dock and the Switch 2 dock they're parallel to each other, but perpendicular to the wall. So they aren't like facing, the front isn't facing you as you would normally
it's like sideways.
Yes, it's sideways. It's a little weird, but I actually don't hate it as much as I because I considered that as a possibility. I was like, that's gonna be weird. I don't know if I like that. But now that it's that way, I don't hate it. It's only a little weird if I'm removing the Joy-Cons. That's a little awkward, and maybe if I'm docking the system. One thing I will say though for the dock, just as kind of my own personal pro tip, I did this with the OLED dock as well. Remember when the Switch 1 came out, people were talking about like, oh, the dock is scratching my system. And you could, people started selling on Etsy these like covers for the dock, these cloth covers, and I've actually bought several of those over the years for the Switch 1. And but when I got my OLED, I got the Tears of the Kingdom OLED, and it's just such a beautiful, the dock for that thing is so beautiful, and I didn't want to cover it up. So what I did was I've got these, that I use for various purposes around the house. I've just got these like rolls of like adhesive felt. You just cut it to length and pull it off. You just buy it. I think it's like Scotch brand at Lowe's or something. And I just cut it to length. I put it like kind of just like maybe like a quarter of an inch or so, like down the front inside of the dock, and that creates this soft surface for the screen to go against, but it also adds just enough thickness to keep the Switch snug in there,
right?
So that when you're working at the card slot or you're taking the Joy-Cons off or something, it's not rattling. It's not like, I feel it wiggles too much. And I'm so used to that now that I was really surprised when I put the Switch 2 in the dock. It's like, it's really wiggles. And like, I don't feel good about like opening up the card slot and how it's like, it's just wiggling in there. It's very loose. So I did the same thing. I cut it to length, put it on the inside of the dock, and it's very snug, but it also doesn't feel like it's like squeezing too much or anything when you're like pulling it out of the dock. Like I feel like it's just a perfect solution that keeps it stable, keeps the screen further protected. I did, by the way, get another pack of screen protectors, and the third time was the charm.
Okay. Mine show up tomorrow, I think, my screen protector.
Okay, great. So yeah, I feel so much, especially because of all the testing I've been doing for like Switch 1 games and stuff like that I want to include in the video I'm working on. I feel so much better like swapping games out without the system like wobbling back and forth in the dock like that. I really like how just it increases the quality of the user experience a lot, I think, to just have it a little more snug there.
Pro tips with Try. Pro tips. I think that's a good segue, though. Not the tips, the Switch 1 games. Because why would we buy this thing if the game's not fun, as Reggie would say? What's the point?
Yes.
We've got, obviously, Mario Kart and Welcome Tour, as you affectionately called the official 240p test suite, which I thought was hilarious. That was you, Corey, I think.
Yeah.
It's so good.
2160p.
It seems like from initial backward compatibility testing from like Modern Vintage Gamer, Digital Foundry, you Try, we're on the stream with John, testing a bunch of stuff, which was fun to watch. It seems like the backward compatibility story is pretty good, and I know that's important to all of us. And then Mario Kart and Welcome Tours, how are you feeling, Corey, about this initial kind of slate here of stuff that's out, and then obviously being able to play old stuff on it? And you feeling good? Where you at?
Yeah, I feel pretty decent about it. I'll be curious to see if like little weird incompatibilities or like issues with how certain games run, if people play all the way through them. I feel like that's something we're kind of doomed to experience in the future, because these games run, but I wonder how many people have played through the whole thing or just like done like, tried to break the games in certain ways that would work fine on the Switch 1, but might run into some issues with the way that the Switch 2 is emulating them. And it's different because I feel like on the PS5 running PS4 games, everything just works great all the time. There's really been no issues. And like they had like a very small list of incompatibilities when the system came out, and then a lot of those were fixed and it just works. So I wonder if over time these issues will be ironed out like on the firmware level, like by Nintendo, or if it's going to be, people have to release these patches, or if there's just like certain issues that have not come up for people yet because they're too busy playing through, they're too busy playing Mario Kart World and stuff like that. They haven't played through an entire game on the Switch 2. So I think that'll be kind of interesting in the long run, because I don't think there's people at Nintendo playing all the way through these games to see where certain weird issues might crop up, just the way that it's emulator rendering something that, maybe there's an area late in a game that is just doing something weird. And, like at times like the frame rate would tank or something like that. And like nobody has just put in the time to play to that point yet. But I think that initially, like, it seems great, the way that certain games run a lot better, like Backaroo, or like Bayonetta 3 running at 60 FPS is great. It doesn't fix a lot of the other issues with the game, but I think that's it's great. I'm very happy to see that, and it makes me more likely to maybe revisit that game in the future. The problem is,
I was saving it for Switch 2 myself.
Yeah, but the thing is that yes, it runs better, but it kind of looks a little garbagey at the same time, like on the screen, like it just, or just playing it in general, like it just like looks, I don't know, like a bad MPEG video. Just like at a lower resolution. Just so I think that'll be interesting, to re-experience, but also to see if certain things are discovered, and then maybe it puts those games on a like not fully compatible list. So it's just going to really be up to people to test this stuff out, I think.
I'm curious what the speedrunning community will find out, because I think they'll be the ones to figure that sort of thing out. Like,
totally, yeah.
Breath of the Wild. Is it better to run the Breath of the Wild Switch 2 version, or is it better to run the Switch 1 version on your Switch 2, or however it would work like that? Or Super Mario Odyssey could be a good example, because that game now runs like rock solid. Is that better? I don't know. I think that's where we're going to find some interest, or people will find interesting things to what breaks a game, what's better for a game. Does this ruin the routes? I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's going to be a pretty good test bed. We'll see it at AGDQ and SGDQ soon.
Yeah.
Nintendo had, I believe, 3 documents. I think it was ahead of launch, and they updated it a couple times leading up to launch, where there was like, here are games with startup issues. Here are games that have compatibility issues. Here are games that are planned to be fixed by or near launch. And now they've kind of combined it into 2 lists. One is, these are games that are either explicitly planned to be fixed or games that have already been fixed. And then here's this other list where these are games with startup issues and other issues that might affect progression. And I think some games have been added to the list since. Like, for example, I wasn't actually looking for this one initially because I don't have it, but my friends who came with me to the Best Buy midnight and got theirs from Walmart. A couple days later, they're like, and they're not like interested in like tech stuff at all, really. So I was actually surprised they even were like, hey, this has frame rate issues. They were playing Switch Sports, the soccer mode, and they said that when I play it online, it's like the frame rate is bad, and I never noticed that. Never happened on Switch 1. And I'm like, oh, I'll tell my friend John, maybe that's something for them to look into. And then I actually looked at the compatibility list for like double checking things for myself, and I saw it was there, and it says, lo and behold, there is a note on the document that says when they called it football in the document, but when playing football online, it's 30 frames per second. So I don't know if that was added after the fact or not, but I never noticed like a note like that before. So I think they are adding and fixing things. Well, 2 games I had that were marked as having some kind of issue are now marked as resolved are Harvestella and Alien Isolation. So those are already marked as resolved. I was concerned about those ahead of time. We've already heard that, you know, a number of games are going to be getting other patches. I think a lot of issues from what I'm hearing might revolve around just the different ways that the Switch 1 and Switch 2 play video files. So I think some video files that might play like for the company logo at the start of when you boot up a game could be responsible for a lot of things. So if that could fixes for that could potentially fix a wide swath of games with issues. But I actually think it's kind of cool. Like I actually did not think this was a thing that any company would do in the year 2025, but I kind of like this actually. The only thing Nintendo has stopped me from booting up is the YouTube app. They're just like, oh, you can't do this right now. You know, it says explicit, but you know what? They let me install it because it's on my list of virtual game cards, right? Everything you own digitally, you know, DLC. Guess what?
My virtual game card for YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird that like this. Honestly, this virtual game card system is like kind of confusing, to be honest. It's taking a little time for me to wrap my head around, but yeah, they let you install it anyway. I mean, guess what? Like Sony don't let you install PT no more. So
yeah,
I think the fact that Nintendo's just letting you put these things on your system, whether they do anything useful or not, is kind of neat. Like I've got like old Splatoon and ARMS beta tests on my virtual game card list. I can install them. I can boot and get to the title screen of like the Splatoon 2 test fire. And like, you know, you hit R and L and it's like, oh, you know, the servers are down or whatever. You can't, of course you can't play the Splatoon 2
better than
beta
Sony with
anymore.
Concord. I can't open my Concord beta.
Right. So like, I don't know, like, and also like some of these games with compatibility issues, like a Dust and Elysian Tale runs at like, I mean, I don't know what the frame rate is, but it feels like 4 frames a second or something. It runs at a crazy low frame rate. Other games are just like literal like epilepsy triggers. It's just like you boot it up and it's just garbled flashing nonsense. But like it's kind of like the PS3 era where like they let you put in a PS2 or PS1 game. You know, some of them might not work well. Most of them probably work fine, but like they just let you put in what you own. And like I actually kind of have like I feel like most of the time they're like so concerned with the user experience. Like, oh, we don't want someone to have a bad experience. We don't want something to look broken. But I kind of respect that they let you just do that, even if it is kind of broken. Like they're just letting you do what you want with your stuff, which sounds weirdly progressive for Nintendo, right? Like that's
it. In the scheme of things, though, it's just unfortunate that it's not this universal, like almost total replacement for the previous hardware, like the PS5 was for the PS4.
Hopefully it'll get close, though.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I also saw, you know, Corey linked me to a list the other day where it's kind of a document that, you know, again, it's kind of crowdsourced, so the info might not be rock solid, but people were filling in like, oh, you know, this improves, that improves. You know, I've, for example, not played Fire Emblem 3 Houses, but I know someone had marked that like, oh, the load times were actually worse in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. And this is something I need to go back and check on Switch 1, but when I was testing Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on Switch 2, like, first of all, the first time I booted, it was just a black screen. I waited a while. I'm like, what's going on? I, you know, hit the home button. I closed it. I booted again and it booted, but the loading took forever, just forever. And, you know, it's been years since I played that game, but I'd have to go back and check and see if it's actually that slow loading. So I wonder if like a few games could actually have like mostly work as well or work better, but have like just little minor things. But yeah, it does seem like for the most part, games are improved. They hit a higher dynamic resolution significantly more often, and they hit the target frame rate almost all the time. Like there are instances where like I think Dragon Quest Builders 2 user generated content maybe like you can totally tank it.
MVG showed that off. Yeah, it was like tanked. Take the.
I had no idea that it was that bad. I was like, how is this even real? Like seeing how that ran on the Switch 1.
Well, but I think the thing is, I've played Builders 1, but not 2. My understanding though is that like doing the normal things you would do over the course of like playing through the campaign of that game, you're not actually going to run into anything like that.
Right. It's always the player who pushes it, too hard. The most important thing is that Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom are fixed. Let's just be real. Like that. That's
so it's weird because like on Wednesday, when I think the systems were starting to become available to people in Japan and Australia and stuff like that, there were early reports that's like, oh yeah, Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening seem better, a lot better, but not perfectly fixed. Well, as far as I've seen, Link's Awakening seems perfectly fixed. I've not booted Echoes of Wisdom yet because I haven't even started the game myself. So I'll be curious if those early reports, people were downloading a lot of stuff, and you would like to think that wouldn't impact game performance, but I don't think we know the full story there. I hope maybe you've heard more about Echoes of Wisdom. I am hoping it's pretty resoundingly fixed because like Bayonetta 3, this is a game I've been saving to play on the Switch too.
I haven't heard more about Echoes of Wisdom, but when I saw those early reports, I took a big old grain of salt with it, and I said, I'm waiting for John from Digital Foundry to tell me. Then when he booted up Link's Awakening on that stream, and he turned around and said, it's perfect, it's fixed. I'm like, he's spoken.
Yeah. I think Echoes of Wisdom is heavier from what I understand. Like the big problem with Link's Awakening was always like moving between inside and outside or transitioning from area to area. And Echoes of Wisdom, my understanding is it could have like sustained drops to 30, just like out in the overworld. So I don't know. It's a game I hope to play in the coming months, though. In the early months of the Switch 2, it's very much a game that's like on my priority list. So
I just got it for my birthday, so I'm very excited to play it and have it on Switch 2 and hopefully run it on a decent frame rate. So I'm excited. Now just patch Paper Mario to run at 60. 1,000 Year Door, and we'll be cooking.
Yeah, and Xenoblade Chronicles X.
That has to have a patch. I'm surprised they haven't announced.
I'm sure they're all in the works. Yeah.
Here's why I'm optimistic, because I was a little like I was like this initial list of games. They've got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Super Mario Odyssey, the Griseldas, as I like to call them, the Grezzo developed Zeldas. They've got this list. And I'm like of free updates. I'm like I think they will do more over time, but I wouldn't be surprised if like this is the list and this is it. And just yesterday, Splatoon 3 got a Switch 2 update. So I'm like, aha, this is the first one that wasn't on the initial list. They're going to do more. So.
And they're just going to release, hopefully they just release them as they finish, not, like hoard them and then drop them all at once.
Right.
Just do it when they're ready.
I remember Xenoblade Chronicles X had people found like code references to a 60 frames mode in the first game. So my thought actually, after all of the news was announced for Nintendo Switch 2 Enhanced Editions, I'm like, oh, this is for some Enhanced Edition because Xenoblade just came out. I was like, they'll make you pay $10 to upgrade or whatever, and you get the frame rate unlock and better resolution or whatever. But now it could, I guess, go either way. But I definitely feel like Xenoblade will get a patch of some sort because it was in the code.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think 1,000 Year Door had a reference in the code for something similar. I think.
I might look that up. I'm hopeful.
I played 1,000 Year Door earlier this year, even though it was 30 though, and it is a gorgeous game.
Every time I see footage.
I think the drop to 30 was worth just how good looking it is. Like, it looks really beautiful. It really does. So,
how are you guys feeling about Mario Kart World? Because as I've played it, so I didn't actually get to play on launch. I was too busy with work, and I couldn't play on Friday either. So the first time I played was Saturday night with some friends that came over for my birthday, and we just played Mario Kart World. And at least in a party setting, the picturesque, I mean, we weren't on a roof, but that Switch 1 roof party kind of energy, right? Like, people coming over, we're eating food, we're playing games. Karen waves, she comes over, she's like, let's play. Just playing Knockout Tour and Grand Prix, everyone's switching in and out. I was an absolute blast. And I've seen clips of like people doing crazy tricks off walls and shortcuts and things. I'm like, they have turned Mario Kart into a platformer. And I think Knockout Tour is bonkers insane good. I wrote down in my notes the other day, it's the Mount Wario-ification of Mario Kart, like that just start to end kind of race where like top to bottom, like that's what this game feels like now, especially with the Grand Prix, like basically having a lap or two being just driving to the other place. It feels like it was designed all around this one lap mentality.
Right.
But I'm enjoying
Although
it a
there
lot.
are some multiple laps type races, but
like the Donkey Kong level is 8 laps, you know, and like 3 of them are getting there, and then one's for each like level of it, you know. It's an interesting approach that definitely shakes up the well-established Mario Kart 8 Deluxe formula for the last 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, I was really looking forward to that because, I would call it the cruisinification of Mario Kart because, again, cruising is like a point B to point A, point B game with no laps. There are, some laps here, but I really like the kind of interim sorts of races. I've heard some people don't like that as much, but I really like it. Like, I like the feel of traveling across this world, and I really also like that it's still very much a menu-driven game. Like, just the fact that it is open world doesn't make it difficult to access the content. You're not like actually having to drive to the race. Like, I played a little Forza Horizon 5, and I'm like, I don't think this is really for me. And Mario Kart is still Mario Kart. The open world doesn't change that. And in fact, I think there's very fair criticisms that the open world, it's on its own, is not actually that interesting. The rewards for the things you do are mostly just these stickers that don't do much for you. But that said, I actually kind of like that it's boring because it's like the perfect like before bed activity. I was doing it again last night, just do a few P switches, try to get a few costumes, try to find some of those Peach coins or something, and then just go to bed, right? It's like just kind of a good wind down activity. But I do think they maybe, if they expand things with updates, I think maybe they need to like come up with better rewards or compulsion for doing the open world. But the core game, I think sits in that open world very well. I love how cohesive the whole thing is. And I love the Mount Wario-ification. I love, the Knockout Tour. Unfortunately, one of my friends doesn't like Knockout Tour very much, but I really like it. It's fun. I also like how, there's so many GPs to get through. And I was surprised after I finished like the GPs, the Special Cup, there's trophies to get for like all these Knockout Tours in single player as well. So, I still need to go back and finish all the GPs on 150 and do all the Knockout Tours and stuff.
You got to get mirror mode too.
Oh yeah, I heard that it's there. I haven't even looked in how to do it.
I'm not like totally sure, but I know it's there.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a game we're going to be playing for years, and it's okay for some of these unlocks to be a slow burn. I was thinking of just last night about how even though I basically never took Mario Kart 8 Deluxe out of my Switch carrying case, basically every time I played it, I still unlocked something new. And that kind of annoyed me because of the Kart part system. And it always like brings you to where you are. It's like, oh, you unlocked a new part, and it scrolls down to it. It's like, crap, I don't remember what was the combo that I already liked. And, so I actually really like that system's gone. I like that we're back to these just singular carts that are what they are. They're more, I think, more imaginative looking and more enjoyably animated because they're made to be what they are. It's just character plus cart. I'm much happier that we've kind of gone back to those roots.
Yeah. What about you, Corey?
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, you know what? It's just as fun as the other ones that I've played, and I'm not into all the nuances of it. It's just fun. It's fun to play, and I did all of them in 100cc, did some knockouts, and I'll play it here and there, but I have no desire to really dump a significant amount of time into it. It'll be I'll play this when just purely when it just might sound fun.
Yeah.
And I've always been like this with Mario Kart, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's just it's a good thing to have on the system.
How could you not like it?
That's
the YouTube comments right there.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
And to be fair, I think that's a very normal reaction because, while some people are very excited about Mario Kart as a launch game, a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are like, oh, there's no big adventure game. We need, we need a Mario, we need a Zelda, even that Donkey Kong Bonanza, give us. Yeah. So, I think a lot of people are like, Mario Kart is just a game I play here and there. I want something to sink my teeth into at launch. And so I think your reaction is not abnormal. Everyone likes Mario Kart, but not everyone loves Mario Kart. And I think that's borne out by the reactions to it being the marquee launch game. And so I think that's a totally fair opinion.
It makes sense that it would be a launch game in the way that you want to get everybody involved to play this together. But I don't know, it's not super exciting. I mean, just in the example, in the fact that I was I was almost not going to get it, and it might have been something I would get later on down the road if I didn't get it in that bundle, or if the launch excitement overtook me and I was like, I'm going to get it right now.
Right.
I just think that, it's fine.
It's Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it. Let's go there. So, Corey, how are you feeling about Donkey Kong Bonanza then?
So I have that one pre-ordered, and I had a $10 off coupon that I got from Best Buy when I pre-ordered Expedition 33. So I promptly put that towards it, and I'm looking forward to that. I've only seen that original trailer for it. I've not seen anything else. Okay. So I'll get that day one. That is the one that I'm looking forward to the most. I think that's more up my alley, but I have no idea what to expect. It looks so chaotic, and I'm not sure how much meat there is actually going to be there when it comes down to it, but I trust them. I trust them to do something that is going to, that people are going to feel like, oh, this is a new game, a new not like a new franchise, but like a new entry on a new hardware platform in this big long running series that has, been a platformer for a 2D platformer, I guess, except for Donkey Kong 64, right?
The one game.
Yeah. So I think it'll be really interesting because we don't really know a whole lot about it. At least I don't know a whole lot about it. Yeah. So I'm excited about that one.
They did stream it. That was the big chunks of the treehouse stuff. I won't spoil anything for you, but it does seem promising, and I think a lot of people are inferring that it is the Odyssey team. Obviously, Nintendo doesn't like to talk about who makes their games. Right. Big secret, hush hush. But I have a feeling that at least if it is the Odyssey team, that we're in good hands. And what I think is so great about it is only a month after launch. Now, when the Switch came out, we obviously had Breath of the Wild as that like Wii U Switch bridge game, so there was hundreds of hours of content there, and and single player content at that. And then Odyssey was that October because it came out while I was on my honeymoon. I remember that. I had to wait a week to play Odyssey, but this is a month later, which honestly kind of feels like the Switch 2's first 6 months are kind of stacked if you throw in some of those enhanced editions. But Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Pokemon Legends ZA sounds really cool.
When is Metroid supposed to be out?
They have this year.
People are guessing. People are guessing September seems like the most likely gap, but we don't know.
Yeah, because I thought Pokemon would be November, but it is in fact October.
Yeah.
So
you better get this episode out quick before Nintendo Shadow drops like tomorrow. Tune in for Nintendo Direct because it's June. We're gonna be outdated.
Well, what was so surprising to me was, like you said, there was the Splatoon 3 patch, but with that, they announced a brand new spin-off game for Switch 2 called Splatoon Raiders, which totally feels like a Summer Direct reveal. So I was surprised that was announced by itself.
Yeah.
But you've got that, allegedly, barring any potential delays, we're getting Kirby Air Riders. There's that Age
Zelda,
of Calamity.
Yeah, Age
Zelda,
of Imprisonment.
Imprisonment. You're right. Calamity was the first one. There's the Kirby update, Try, with some more DLC for you. Forgotten Land.
That's going to be my first like double dip on like a physical. Like I know it's expensive, but like I have to. And also like I feel like the value proposition for that one is a little better than the Zeldas because it does sound like that new content might be fairly substantial.
Hopeful.
The update is, $20 over the original price compared to the Zeldas is $10 over the original price. So you would think it's more substantial.
You would hope. One would hope. So how are you feeling about Bonanza then, Try?
I'm excited. I've honestly been a little surprised by, and maybe this is just me like listening too much to Digital Foundry. I've been a little surprised that some of the reaction has been like a little mixed. Like, I just can't quite figure out if the hook here is grabbing me, or it might have been complaints like, oh, the frame rate doesn't seem quite as consistent as you might expect from Nintendo. And maybe that's the reaction I'm hearing. Maybe it's more tuned to that because I think the core concept is fantastic. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see on a new platform is like is a gameplay concept that seems like it would be really challenging to pull off on the previous generation hardware, which is this like terrain destruction and deformation. That's the kind of game concept we used to see in games like Red Faction in the PS2 era, and then game developers just eventually decide, you know what, that stuff's real hard. Let's not do that anymore. And to the point where, I thought Breath of the Wild was going to be taken over, that style of game was going to be taken over video games in just a couple of years after it came out. And people don't even have the guts to do what Breath of the Wild did. And then look, they like how crazy they go with Tears of the Kingdom. No one does this stuff even on vastly more powerful hardware. Like only Nintendo has the guts to do this, like really like systemic, like hardcore, like design like that.
Yeah.
Power level of the hardware,
like the Switch didn't stop them from implementing Ultra Hand, right? In Tears of the Kingdom.
No.
Which just feels like, and the fact
insane. They are madmen.
They are madmen. And the fact that it ran as well as it did on 7-year-old hardware at that point. Oh my goodness. They're wizards. They're wizards over there. It is. Oh, it's so much. I can't wait to play it on Switch 2. I can't get sucked back into it now. I got to beat Expedition 33. I can't. We've had a detour for Mario Kart, but I got to get back to it. I got to get back to my French RPG. I'm excited. I'm happy that it's a good year. Bonanza's going to be good. I can't believe I looked it up today because I have a trip coming up, a rather last minute trip that's like the first and second week of July. I was like, is it out by then? Maybe I can play it on the plane. And I'm like, dang it, it's the week after. So I will come home and play Bonanza. which will be good, I think. So I'm excited.
I'm curious to see what my future travel plans will be with the Switch 2. Like its increased size. I always felt that the Switch 1 was almost like close to a limit. Like I really liked the Switch Lite because I felt like the smaller size just made it a lot more portable and travelable. And so much so that I just bought one so I could travel with it instead of taking my OLED. And my OLED's like never gone anywhere with me at this point. And the Switch 2 being that much bigger, like it's just, I don't know. It's the same reason I've not brought my Steam Deck like anywhere. I just have no interest in traveling with it. It's like almost too clownishly big for me to like feel like I want to play it outside of the house. So and that's just like, I mean, that's just me. You know,
no, I agree with you. I've played a couple of friends' Steam Decks, and it feels almost unwieldy. I mean, it's comfortable, but it's like the limit of portable. Is it really portable? I mean, you can take it around the house, but I don't know.
And the Switch 2 is right around that same size. It's
much
not
thinner,
the same
though.
Thickness, but it's So I'm not sure how much I'll be traveling with my Switch 2. If I could see myself doing it if I was like traveling by car someplace and I was going to be staying in a hotel, but I can't see myself ever like pulling it out on a plane or doing that. It's just not what I like to do, I guess.
I'm gonna give it a test run here in a few weeks, so I'll see what it's like.
Yeah.
I remember seeing pictures of people traveling with their Wii U and like plugging it in at airport terminals and playing off the gamepad. I was like, this is the dream. Which is so funny. People just sitting there playing it.
I mean, I've been going back and forth between Switch 2 and OLED as I've been testing various backwards compatible games, and kind of what I'm like my initial reaction to like holding the Switch 2 is like, this feels really nice. The bigger screen, there's lots of fair criticism to make against the screen. I don't hate it. Like I think my tier, my bar to pass for portable screen is not like ultra high, because I'm already like in my head, I'm like, this is already a compromised experience just from not playing it on my OLED TV. Like I'm already of a mindset where I'm like, this is fine.
Let's be real. We all grew up with a Game Boy, like a green pea soup green Game Boy.
Yeah.
Like we know what
I can handle this. I can handle this,
Kids these days.
I can take it. I get, it's not real HDR. Whatever. I think it still generally looks good. Yes, it has slow pixel response, which makes it a little blurry and smeary, but I still think at least Mario Kart looks really good on it. That's a game that's like perfect showcase of that screen. I think, just bright, colorful. You're not going to see the smearing a lot because of the way it moves. But yeah, I going back, like my first feeling is like, I really like how the thickness is the same. Like but the larger size like makes it a little more comfortable holding your fingers on the sticks. It doesn't feel overly heavy. I like the bigger screen. But as I've gone back and forth, like weirdly, something about the OLED still maybe feels a little bit more premium. I think it's like the cool touch to the back of the unit just like makes it feel more solid. I don't know if it actually is a more solid material, but like something about it, just that cool touch. Like I don't know what the material is, but it feels really nice.
Yeah, I like the back like kickstand on there more than I like the Switch 2 one, just because I almost felt like I could snap the one on the Switch 2 if you pulled it in the corner or something like that. Like it almost snap.
Welcome Tour tells us that the stand is U-shaped rather than a solid shape because they needed the space for more powerful processing. So the stand on the OLED is taking up a lot more space because it's just a solid block, right? A solid section. And they needed, to make sure that the stand didn't eat into all that for Switch 2.
It's funny though, going back to that launch, like those early Switch 1s and that kickstand on there, it's like,
so bad.
It's comical. It's comically bad. Yes. In fact, I had my Switch 1 out fairly recently, and it doesn't even stay closed anymore. I had to put a little piece of like gaffer tape.
Oh, really?
To hold it closed. I don't know why. Like it just.
I always think of that initial concept reveal trailer they did for it, the one where the guy like plays Breath of the Wild. The guy's playing basketball, and then they stop playing basketball to play NBA 2K, and they just on the picnic table. I'm like, that thing would fall over. Picnic tables are not smooth surfaces. That little kickstand doesn't stand a chance.
I tried to play. You know, they show it in that initial Switch 1 trailer where the guy's like got the Switch like propped up on the airplane tray. And playing with the separate Joy-Cons. And like, I tried that like very briefly on my first like airplane trip with the Switch 1. Which was like 2 or 3 days after it launched. You know, me and Corey went to LA to shoot our Night Trap documentary. And I tried so briefly, and I'm like, I'm immediately like, that trailer is a lie, because you couldn't even prop up that stand in such a way where you could see the screen, because it's ultimately your tray table is like so close to you, you're looking at like such an oblique, like top down angle. Like this OLED, if you wanted to do that, you could at least like lean it way back and have a decent view. But I've never seriously given that another try. But no. As far as taking it on trips, I think it's, for a big selling point to the OLED is the battery life is fantastic on it.
Yeah.
And you know, I am not a big like handheld at home guy, but just because this thing is new and I want to try it out, I've, you know, played a fair bit of handheld stuff at home. You know, that battery is, you know, around the 2 hour mark, you know, maybe less if you use the only charge to 90% option. In the settings, which should in theory increase battery life over time. So yeah, like it really depends. Like you would have to really want to play a Switch 2 game or a Switch 1 game that would benefit a ton from being played on the Switch 2 to take it on a trip, and you'd probably want to bring a battery bank with you and stuff like that, you know. An example, by the way, of a game that would be really cool is Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. I don't know if you've heard this, Max, but apparently that game was always 1080p, and there's several others. Like handheld mode was just 1080p, but it was, you know, on the 720p screen, and now it's just 1080p. Like without an update, it's just 1080p, and it's 1080p 60 on. So yeah, it depends. What I've been finding is I prefer the feel of the Switch 2 for more modern styles of games that make heavy use of the sticks. And I prefer this feel of the Switch OLED for more retro style games. Cause I've never really hated like the button D-pad thing. So I feel like kind of the lighter weight, the smaller buttons, like kind of feels better for the more retro stuff, but the sticks and stuff feel, and bigger triggers and stuff feels nicer for something a little more 3D, a little more modern. So it's really going to be a case by case basis, a game by game basis, or whether battery life is a concern as to whether I decide to bring the Switch 1 or the Switch 2.
Everyone should just bring a Game Boy Micro everywhere they go. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
That fits in your coin pocket.
Yep. Oh, exactly. I mean, that's what I used to do.
I love my Game Boy Micro. Yeah. I used to, when I go on trips, I always throw it in the sunglass pouch in my backpack. I'm like, I always have you with me. You're always ready to go.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. I think that'll do it, though, gentlemen. Thank you so much for both of you coming by, talking Switch 2 with me. This was a lot of fun. I have new things to test. Get my capture set up right. Goodness gracious. It's going to be fun.
Well, hopefully Nintendo figures it out. Like, name a better or a worse combo than like Nintendo and new technology standards. And I feel like it's always them. Like, they think, well, we think we should do it this way, even though it's not like the standard of how things are done. But when it comes to video standards like that, it always feels like they need to get humbled in a way by screwing it up, and then they have to fix it.
But let me tell you what they did nail, though, was that wireless video to the Wii U gamepad.
Oh,
yeah.
It's amazing. They nailed that perfectly.
Really quick, I think it's kind of interesting that they're able to utilize that same sort of technology for the whatever it is, like the wireless
game share
connect. Yeah, the game share. Yeah, and what I think is even kind of cool is like using that Clubhouse games. You can load it on other people's machines, or like stream it to other people's machines, playing with like the game chat or whatever, and they can have do inputs apparently, like and play like their sides if you wanted to play like, you know, because it's just sending one screen. You know, if you're playing chess or something like that, you could play chess with somebody just with one game cartridge, but play over like game share, which is kind of neat, right?
It's like the DS used to do, right? Like download play on the DS. And I just did a podcast about Metroid Prime Hunters, and that game, I forgot that it originally wasn't going to have Wi-Fi multiplayer. It was only going to have local wireless, and they delayed the game to add Wi-Fi support. But that game does have download play, single cartridge. You could play multiplayer with all of your friends, and Mario Kart DS is a famous example of that as well. You know, it's cool to see that come back. I would, if I was a kid, I'd be all over that. I'd be like, oh yeah, let me share. Let's play a game together. You don't have to own it. That'd be super sweet. So I think it's cool. Yeah. It's nice. It's all coming back. It all comes back. What's old is new again.
That Clubhouse game is kind of a hidden gem, I think. There's some pretty neat things in there to play, and it just, I love it. If I almost wish that it would be on sale for like digital, like at some point for like, I would definitely pay like $20 to have that thing just like on my system at all times.
Yeah.
Because there's like 50 or like 53 games or something in it. And, you know, just to have even a good solitaire on there is nice.
It is nice. Always have solitaire. I probably was the only person that popped off when they announced Clubhouse games. Like, because I loved it on the DS. Loved it on the DS.
I love that it teaches you how to play, because there's so much stuff that I don't know how to play, and it's like, oh, we can teach you how to play like shogi and stuff like that, like things that I would never even consider like learning how to play.
It's great. Go get Clubhouse games, everyone, and then play it with your friends on Switch 2, so then they go out and buy it, and everyone can have it. That's the message from today's episode. Well, thanks again, guys. For My Life in Gaming, everyone go to the YouTube channel. YouTube, My Life. I think it's pretty much My Life in Gaming anywhere. YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, TikTok.
Blue Sky. We don't really post on Twitter X. We don't post on Twitter X at all anymore. So
rest in peace.
If you want to find us on social media, it'd have to be either Instagram or Blue Sky.
Yeah, we did our first YouTube short the other week, so you know we might be using that Instagram a little more. Cross posting to there. So
it sounds like a Switch 2 video is on the way. Try's hard at work. He's gonna go work on it.
I'm getting close to done with my script. I'm almost debating whether I might need to divide into like 2 scripts. Or if I can whittle it down. We'll see. But it's been fun. It's been fun testing stuff out. So yeah, look forward to that. It's going to the focus is going to be like a retro gamer's perspective on Switch 2. It's like the questions that only I had, or people like us. I mean, I got input from our Discord community. Like, what are some questions we have, like about, you know, the controls, the video output, the scaling, backwards compatibility. You know, it's going to be about concerns surrounding the games we already have, or, you know, future retro style games. Like, is the Switch 2 poised to satisfy us with that style of stuff? So it's going to be a little different than other Switch 2 content, I would say.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it, and everyone else should too. So thank you. If you'd like to see links to anything that we spoke about, you can check out the show notes in your podcast player, or head over to maxfrequency.net/MFP-48. That's where you can find all the show notes. You can check out all my work over at Max Frequency, and then my other podcast, Chapter Select. We will have Metroid Prime season done for when Beyond comes out. I promise. I promise, people. We will tie it in. It'll be all good. But until next time, thank you all so much, and adios.